Hello, my name is Jack Ward, and today I'm going to be leading you through setting up the Ghidra server. If you want to, you can reach out to me on any of my social media contact links to the bottom left-hand side. Alright, some requirements for this tutorial is I expect you to have a Ubuntu 18.04 virtual machine. You can use any of the Ubuntu series. 16 is a good LTS solution, 18 is what we're currently working with, 19 is out. You can use any virtualization machine you want, but I'm going to be leading you through using Ubuntu 18.04. For this tutorial, I also expect that you have a basic understanding of networking and how you can network your server and have it communicate with the client on your local area network. I also expect you to have a basic understanding of Ghidra, how to run it, how to bring up a binary, and how to change the function name of at least one function. Alright, so if you haven't installed a Windows VM in your Proxmox and you want to learn how, please check out my link called Installing Windows VM in Proxmox. Subsequently, if you haven't installed the Ghidra client and haven't played around with Ghidra at all, check out my video called Installing Ghidra. You can click on the links on your screen or at the links down below. Also, if you like these videos, please click that like button, leave a comment, and also subscribe. Something that I want to know is, what software reverse engineering environments do you use? Which ones have you used before? Which ones do you like? Which ones do you dislike? And which ones are you excited to come out into the future? Alright, so we are going to be using the Ghidra server. Ghidra is a phenomenal software reverse engineering environment released by the NSA in March of 2019 to the public. It is Java based and is very similar to IDA Pro. It has a great decompiler and it can run Python and JavaScripts without any need for a registry key or subscription. We are going to be using the Ghidra server, which is an amazing tool for collaboration between you and your other reverse engineers. I'm going to be running the Ghidra server on Ubuntu. Ubuntu is open source based on Debian and was originally released in October of 2004. You can get Ubuntu at ubuntu.com. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into it. Alright, so I have my Ubuntu 18.04 machine up and running. One of the first things that I'm going to do is we are going to go ahead and do a sudo apt update. We're going to make sure that we are updated to the new hotness. Alright, my machine is up to date. It's ready to go. Go ahead and make sure that yours is up to date as well. Feel free to pause the video. I'm also going to do a sudo apt upgrade. There's no reason for me to do this, but we're going to go ahead and do it just out of good practice. Alright, so now that I know that my Ubuntu is ready to rock and roll, we're going to go ahead and download Ghidra. So this machine does not currently have Java installed, but we're going to go ahead and install Ghidra, and then we're going to run it, and we're going to see what errors come up. So that way, if you see those errors in the future, we'll be able to walk through them together, and when you see the errors, you will understand what errors will be shown and how to better go around fixing those errors. So it's going to jump into Firefox. Whatever web browser you wish to use is perfectly fine. And then we are going to go to Ghidra. So one of the best ways to do anything on the internet these days is by searching it. Alright, so we're going to search for Ghidra. It is going to be the first few search results that pop up. The first one for me is going straight to the NSA, in which the NSA describes in great detail what Ghidra is. The second one on my screen at this moment is at ghidra-sre.org. Let's go ahead and jump into there. So even though we are downloading the Ghidra server, let me rephrase that, even though we are installing the Ghidra server is natively packaged in with the Ghidra install on the main page. So go ahead and click download Ghidra as if you were downloading the normal client. I'm going to save file. And it's going to go directly into my downloads folder. I'm going to click this file open icon, and I'm going to go ahead and exit out of the Mozilla Firefox for the time being. I don't have any need for it anymore. Alright, so here it is, and it's a zipped file in the downloads folder. I'm going to go ahead and extract it here. Once I do that, it unzips and it has a unzipped folder here for me to click into. I'm going to go ahead and click into that folder, and I see there's another Ghidra folder in here. Let's go ahead and browse into it real quick just to get an idea of what other folders are in here. Now that we have an idea of what folders there are, I'm going to move this folder, and I went ahead and clicked backspace to go back one folder. I like having all my programs in a program file folder. For Linux, I'm going to be dropping it into the opt folder, OPT. So the best way to do this would be to open up in terminal, and we're going to copy or move it into the opt folder. So you can try to copy it and then navigate into the folders and paste it into the opt folders, but there's extra permissions that are required. Best way that I find out how to copy anything is by using the terminal. I like the terminal. I feel more comfortable with it. So we're going to do a sudo. We're going to do a sudo copy recursive, and we are going to take this Ghidra folder, and we are going to put it into our /opt folder. Alright, it gave me no errors, so I would make the assumption that it has safely arrived. So where's this opt folder at? It's an amazing question. I'm glad you asked. Let's click on other locations and go into computer. Let's go into our opt folder. It's right here inside of the root. And here's our Ghidra. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of layout modification here. Alright, so 2 Ghidra run files. .bat is for Windows. If you decided to go the Windows route, feel free to follow along. Just make sure you use the batch commands for everything that you do. And this is going to be our Linux Ghidra run command. So we're going to go ahead and try it out. I do know there's going to be some errors because we don't have the JDK, but we will navigate those errors as they come along. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this terminal. I'm just going to right click into here and then open up a terminal here. That will immediately put me into opt Ghidra. Alright, so I'm going to, you don't have to do sudo, but I'm going to anyways because I already typed it. Let's go ahead and do a sudo Ghidra run. Hit enter. Type in your sudo password. And it says Java runtime not found. So we do need to install that Java runtime. Alright, before we install the Java runtime, let's go ahead and, nope. Actually, we're going to go ahead and install the Java runtime. So when I was reading through the README files, I realized that for the server, the README file suggests that you use OpenJDK. So we're going to use exactly what it suggests. We're going to use OpenJDK. I'm going to go ahead and clear my screen. And we're going to use OpenJDK. So I'm going to do a sudo apt install of OpenJDK. So there's a few ways you can go about this. You can type in the full and complete name of the exact package you want, or you can go ahead and type in hit tab and see what options it gives you. Alright, so it suggested that we use OpenJDK. I know OpenJDK 11 works great for Ghidra Server. I also found out that OpenJDK 12 or just Java 12 might give some user interface issues at this moment in time. I read on Reddit earlier. So we're going to go with JDK 11. Let's see what options 11 has. Alright, so there's debug, there's JREs, there's JDKs. So we're going to continue down the JDK path. Alright, so we're going to be using OpenJDK 11 JDK. We are not going to go headless with it. Once you get the JDK that you need, hit enter and let it install. And yes, there are some other operational commands that you could have done to make this install go quickly. I am okay with hitting, yes and no whenever the prompt comes up. So once OpenJDK installs, we will move forward with the process of setting up our Ubuntu server. It should be relatively simple. Alright, so now that OpenJDK has been installed, let's go ahead and see if it works. So I hit the up arrow a couple times until I got back to my Ghidra run command. Let's hit enter and see what happens. Hey, there's a Ghidra user agreement. Very easy. All we need to do is install OpenJDK. Alright, the What's New in Ghidra 9.0 pops up with the Ghidra help menu. Go ahead and close out of that. Tips, if you like tips, keep them on. If not, go ahead and uncheck the show tips at startup. And here we go. If you've used Ghidra before, if you have that basic Ghidra knowledge that I require for this tutorial, you've already seen the screen and you know what steps you would take next if you wanted to continue on as a client. What we are going to do is we're going to do something different. Instead of doing a non-shared project, we're going to try to do a shared project, and that's why we are setting up this Ghidra server. So we're going to exit out of the user interface for Ghidra, and we're going to continue trucking on building the server through these provided scripts and through the terminal. All right, so Ghidra does work. Let's go ahead and jump into this server folder, and in the server folder we have a server README. I am a huge fan of the READMEs, so let's go ahead and pop it open. So I've gone through the README, and I'm going to be going through the steps that I've already gone through earlier by going through the README. So even though I'm not going to be reading this file with you, I do expect you to go back and give it a look over during the installation process and throughout the rest of your career as a reverse engineer. Make sure you go back to this README. For example, you're going to see that this is going to come back up as we go along through the tutorial, as well as this, and as well as a few others. Alright, so that's where the README is located. Please refer back to that. We're going to go ahead and continue with our installation, in which the first thing we are going to do is this server install script. The server install will automatically install everything you need for your Ghidra server, and then it will create it as a service. So when your Ubuntu machine turns off and turns back on, it will automatically be installed as a service and will start up at the startup of your machine. Alright, so I like running everything in the terminal, so we're going to launch it here. Alright, let's go into the server folder. And this one is going to require sudo access. Alright, so starting the Ghidra server right now. At the very end, we see that it comes up with the report that service Ghidra server has been started. So, mission complete, more or less. The server is started. We have completed everything that we came here to do. So let's go ahead and do some verification that the server has indeed started. We are going to use this command to ensure that the server has started. And what we're going to do is just merely type it in, just get an idea of what there is. Since all I want to do right now is query the status of the server, we're just going to do that. We don't even need sudo privileges to do that. Let's go ahead and query the status. Alright, so if we see here, the name of the server is Ghidra Server. Is it installed? Yes. Is it running? Yes. The rest of these are false, and that is fine right now for what we're doing. We do not need these to be true at this moment. So, the server is up, it is installed, it is running. We are good to go. So, alright. So before we move to the client side of everything, we need to figure out what our IP is. So I'm going to go to do an IPA real quick. IPA, A for address. I want to see what the address is of this machine. So I see that the address of this machine is 10.0.0.124. So if all goes well, and if the server is truly up, I should be able to go to a Ghidra client, make a new project, a new shared project, and I should be able to write in the IP of 10.0.0.124 and connect to the server. So let's go ahead and give that a spin. Alright, so I have a virtual machine already up and installed. It is a Windows 7 machine, and it has Java runtime, Java software development kit, and it has Ghidra installed, ready to go. I currently have it up. I've also changed the background to a dark background. And we are going to see if we can connect to our server. So, go File, New Project, New Shared Project, Next. Alright, the IP I typed in earlier in preparation for this video, and it is 10.0.0.124. Let's go and click Next to see what happens. Alright, so currently in the server, I don't have any users set up. And if you see that it defaults to the user ID of Ghidra. Now this will change based on what the username is of your operating system. So this is currently defaulted to Ghidra. Yours might default to your first name or your last name or your gamer tag, whatever you currently have set up on your computer right now. But I don't have Ghidra as a user ID in my Ghidra server at this moment. I want to make this user ID be Bill, Bill, and this person cannot change it. So if I tell him, "Hey, your name's Bill," as of right now, he cannot go in and he cannot make any changes to this. So that's something we need to fix with the server. And then we also need to add in a username. And also, Ghidra has the ability to allow someone to log in anonymously. So we're going to show you that as well. I'm going to show you how to set it up for anonymous login. All right, so now we know what we need to do. Let's jump back over to our Ubuntu machine. All right, so let me go ahead and really quickly show you the server configuration file and show you how to make it where people can log in anonymously. The end goal is to have Bill log in with his username and password, but as we go along that route, we're going to go ahead and see what anonymous looks like. So we're going to keep on scrolling until we see the Ghidra server startup parameters. And as I'm scrolling through this, I usually keep scrolling until I see all of these. This is a very easy way to tell you that you're at the part where I currently want you to be. Why do I want you to be here? Because these command line parameters are ran whenever the server is started. So if we want to make some changes to the overall server, this is where we make it. So for example, if I wanted to change the authentication mode, which is something that we saw in the README earlier, if I want to change the authentication code from a private user password, which is what we currently have set up now, if I had users assigned, they would be using the private user password. We can change it from that to PKI authentication if we so desired. So down here, we currently have it set for TAC Alpha 0. So if we look at TAC Alpha, it is here. If we look at 0, it is here. This is currently what we have set up. If we wanted to change it, we would change that to TAC Alpha 2. And there is not a TAC Alpha 1. Also, the Ghidra repository directory is here as well as our second parameter. All right. So here we have anonymous. So there's a lot of things we can do. We can have people log in with their username and password, and we can also have people log in anonymously. Or if we wanted to, we could come here and just get rid of this TAC Alpha 0 and write in anonymous. So the only way anyone is allowed to access this server is anonymously, which also means that they cannot make any changes. It will be in a read-only state. So let's go ahead and file save this. And I cannot save it at this moment because I have not ran it as in a sudo mode. So let's exit out without saving our changes. And then what I want to do is I'm going to launch it from here. So I'm going to do sudo gedit. Can I do that? I think I can. And then I'm going to drag the server conf into there. Excellent. Scroll back down to where we need it to be. I notice that it's right here because this catches my attention very easy. I'm going to come down here to this first wrap app parameter. I'm going to change this TAC A to a TAC anonymous. I'm going to click on this save button. There we go. Server conf has been saved. We're going to close out and we see that we got some error messages over here from gedit. No problem. Hold down Control, hit C, and it will take us out of it. All right, I'm going to clear the screen real quick. And then I want to, is it server admin I want to use? I do believe it is. So let's do a sudo. Whenever you do a server admin command, it requires you to be in an elevated permission. So let's see what we have. So it ends up that I am incorrect. I did not need to use this server admin command. I want to use the Ghidra server command. What I'm going to do is I'm going to restart the server because I made a change to it. So in order for that change to take effect, I need to restart the server. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It must be used as an elevated shell. So I went ahead and put sudo in front of the line. For those of you who are familiar with sudo, you could have done a sudo bang bang or sudo exclamation mark. So the Ghidra server has stopped and it is now restarting. And we should be able to Alt-Tab over and see what anonymous looks like from the Windows 7 side. So File, new shared project, next, and we wait for it to get to 100%. Alright, so we have been granted anonymous to 10.0.0.124, which allows read-only permissions. Alright, so we are in. We have anonymous access to everything that is on the server. There are currently no repositories because Bill and Ted haven't been granted username and passwords to make repositories yet, but if they had, Anonymous would be able to see those repositories, go in there, and start modifying the code on their local machines, but not be able to save it to the cloud. This is very, very helpful for those who you want to demonstrate the code to, but you don't want them to make any changes to it. All right. Back to the Ubuntu, and let's start. Let's put back our server conf back to the way that we had it earlier. And once again, since it is a server conf file, I do need to launch it as an elevated status. So I'm gonna open this one up in a different terminal. I want to do a sudo gedit. There's other ways to do it, but this is my preferred way. And then let's go to take that conf file, drop them in there, go back down to where all the bangs are, or to where all the hashes are, and then come back down here to anonymous, and let's go to change this back to our anonymous 0. And what that's going to do for us once again, tac a 0. I'm sorry, I said that was tac anonymous 0. Tac alpha 0. Tac alpha 0 is going to give us the private user and password. So this is going to put us back to the same spot where the user can only change their password, which doesn't quite make sense. It would make sense if you assigned each person their own Windows 7 operating system, in which that operating system already had a user tied to the operating system, because that's what Windows goes by. It goes by the user of that operating system. So ends up that we're not doing that. We want anyone on that operating system to be able to log into the Ghidra server. So we are going to add in this tac uniform, which is going to enable users to be prompted for user ID as well. So if we look at uniform up here, tac u falls right here. So it falls underneath after the tac a, but it falls before the repository path. So after tac a, before repository. So that means it needs to be the second parameter, or this one is the third if we were to use all three. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit enter here. Then I'm going to go to the second parameter, change it to the third parameter, and then I'm going to create a new parameter, which this one is going to be my tac uniform. So not only can they log in with their password, but they will also be prompted the first time for their ID. Not so much for the first time, but for all the time. And then the third parameter is the repository directory that it already has set up for us. We're going to save that, and every time that we make changes to this conf file, we are going to have to do a sudo Ghidra Server restart. Alright, so once again, it's bringing the server down gracefully, and then it will be bringing the server back up gracefully, and then it should be ready for us to use in our Windows 7 system. Alright, so it's merely all tabbed over to my Windows 7 system. I'm going to go File, New Project. I'm going to make a shared project. Click on Next. And then, once we go through the long, tedious waiting of it to go from 0 to 100%, after that, we will be able to get in, and hopefully, if all goes well, be able to write it in our user here. So, indeed, I chose Bill as the first one. So, even though I can now type in, Bill doesn't quite exist. I need to create that user. So I'm going to go back over to the Ubuntu, and let's make that user real quick. So the way that we add a user is by using the server admin script. So I'm going to sudo it. I'm going to do server admin. I'm going to tab it. And then let's go ahead and see what it has. And if you look, there is a long list of things you can do to include add a user. So let's go ahead and add a user. Server admin tac add, and we're going to add Bill. Hit enter. Alright, so one command is queued. Now here's the big part. Look at that word queued. That's going to be, I'm going to come back to that in a second. But while we're at it, let's go ahead and add Bill, and we are going to add Ted. So we now have Bill and Ted. Now that the users are added to the repository and to the directory, now Bill and Ted can go on their excellent adventure. So let's see if they are ready to go. So server admin, and then we are going to do a list of users. Oh, no server users have been added. Why? Because we made a change to the server and we haven't restarted it. So they are queued. They're not in just yet. So we have to do that restart by using this command over here. And then restart, I do believe, is the proper terminology. Yep. So once again, stopping the Ghidra server, and then going to bring the Ghidra server right back up. And once it's in a running working condition, we will do another query for users and see if we have our users. So we're going to be using the server admin to see our users. And since we're just querying users, I don't think we have to run it as an elevated status. All right, so server admin, let's do attack users. Maybe I do have to sudo it. There we go. You did have to do it in an elevated command, doing a super user do, in which we do see that we have two repository server users, Bill and Ted. All right, so we're going to jump over real quick to here. We left it at this part, so we can continue on right there. User ID is Bill. Now, as for the password, that's an excellent question because the server administrator has not yet told you the password, has he? Every new user is going to have the password of change me. So Bill, first time that you log in, you have to write in change me. And then an error has occurred. There is no such table. So I was still connected in Ghidra when I made the users Bill and Ted and I restarted the server. So my assumption is that I should probably close all the way out of everything connected to the server and just be safe. I'm going to go ahead and close Ghidra as well. And then we're going to go back into it. One good thing about running into errors during the tutorial is that if I run into it and find a way to fix it, then when you run into it, you will also find a way to fix it. Show tips on startup, I'm going to go without that, so I unclicked that. Let's go new project, shared project. Let's see if we actually have a good connection to our server this time. And if we don't have a good connection, then we're going to troubleshoot it. But I think everything should be in good working order. All right, so it looks like we do have a connection. It popped up with Bill because that's what I entered earlier. And we're going to go ahead and copy this here and paste this over here. I cannot paste it. Can I do Control V? I can. Let's put in Bill. There you go. Your password exchange will expire in less than 24 hours. Please change your password immediately. So that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to just change it to Ghidra because that's 6 letters. You have to have at least 6 letters or more for your passwords. By 6 letters, I mean 6 characters, 6 numbers. I'm unaware if you can use symbols or if that causes problems or issues. All right. Let's go ahead and minimize this. And what Bill is going to do is Bill wants to see crack me. If you wish to use the same binary, you can see the link for crackme0x00 in the description below. It will take you to a website called Shogun Labs, Here Be Dragons, and you can go through that tutorial for the crackme, and it'll also give you a link to the GitHub where you can get crackme.exe so you can follow along. I'm going to breeze right through it. If you don't have crackme, but you do have another binary, go ahead and throw it in. All I'm going to be doing is going to the main and changing one function just to show that we can change things and the other users will see it. So we're going to create a repository. It's going to be crackme0x00. And you can name yours whatever you want. All right, so we already have Bill and Ted in here. If you have Bill, go ahead and keep him in there. We'll worry about Ted later on. Let's go ahead and look at Bill. So let's go ahead and click on Finish. Finish. So since we only had Bill in there, Ted is not going to see this. And that is good because right now we don't want Ted to have access to this. This is only a project right now just for Bill. That's one good thing about Ghidra Server. you can say who has access to what repository. Right now, Bill does. Ted does not. All right, let's go ahead and drop CrackMe into here. Let it do its importing of files. We'll click OK here. All right, and then we can either double click on here or we can click the dragon icon. All right, so this says that crackme.exe has not been analyzed. Would you like to analyze it now? Let's click on yes. Also, I like to scroll down here and I like to click this one all the time. This Windows PE propagate external parameters. Let's analyze this. So for those of you who double clicked or clicked on the dragon icon and it popped up with a blank compiler screen, with a blank decompiler, with a blank disassembly section, don't freak out. It's okay. What I want you to do is click on File, click Open, and relaunch that executable. So if it's completely blank everywhere, simply File, Open, double click on this again, and just merely re-import it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Functions, and then I'm going to scroll down. This binary does have the main function here, and it's very easy to get to. There's a lot of malware and other binaries out there that don't have a main function. They merely have an entry point in which you kind of have to navigate through the entry point through a lot of unnamed functions to be able to find the main function. So don't fret, it's okay, but if you have a main function, please jump in there. If not, go to another function that you would be able to read and decipher quite easily. So for example, this CrackMe, if I were to run it, I would see that it comes up with a command prompt in which this right here is clearly printed, CrackMe level 0x00. So anything that has that string is probably going to use a print command. So I see this string right here, clear as day, and I see this. This function more than likely is a print command. So I'm going to name this print. And then for me, anytime that I change a function, I write in the underscore function or underscore data or underscore string or underscore variable. So that way I know that it's something that I personally have changed and it's not something that Ghidra analyzed by itself. That's my personal way of doing things. But we have changed it, and I'm going to click the save button here in the top left-hand side. Then I'm going to close completely out of it. All right, now that I've closed completely out of it, I will see that I have this option here that is highlighted, says add file to version control. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to write in initial commit, and then furthermore, I'm going to say what I did. Changed unnamed function to print function. There we go. And I don't care to keep this file checked out anymore. I'm not going to be using it anymore today. I'm going to unclick that. I'm going to click OK. So we see that this has changed color and that we now have a 1 next to it, showing that it has been modified. So Bill has brought in his project and he made some changes to it, but I don't think Ted can see it. But before we actually make that conclusion, let's go see what Ted can see. So I'm going to switch users because I have 2 users on this Windows 7 machine. I have Bill and I have Ted. So let's go ahead and log into Ted, and let's have Ted run Ghidra. Okay. You are not going to see this pop up when you first start, so pay no attention to that for this moment. All right. So when your Ghidra pops up, it will pop up with no active projects. So from here, just 1 second. Okay. So now that all my projects are cleared and they're all removed from my personal directory, Now my Ghidra is going to look like yours if you also don't have any projects on your personal Ghidra. So we're going to click File, New Project. We're going to go into Shared Project, hit Next, and go ahead and enter in your server name. Once again, we found out the server name by doing IP space A on our Ubuntu machine. Insert that IP here. Let's click on Next. And we shall wait for the hourglass to flip a couple times until 100%. And then here you can enter the name that you've chosen for your second user. Once again, my user's name was Ted. And since this is Ted's first time logging in, his password is, you're absolutely right, it is change me. Let's click enter. All right, change your password immediately. I am going to make a password of Ghidra because I know it's 6 letters long. And sometimes I know how to spell it. Password was changed successfully. Excellent. So, now Ted is logging in, trying to look at Bill's stuff. Well, Bill did not give him permission to look at his stuff. So right now, Ted can see absolutely nothing. So let's go ahead and cancel out of this. And I'm going to go ahead and close all the way out of Ghidra just to be safe. I'm going to bounce back over to Bill. So what we want Bill to do is we're going to ask Bill to open up his project to Ted so that they both can access it. So Bill's going to click on Crack Me. He's going to right click, correction. He is going to go to Project and edit Project Access List. From here, he can add individual people as he so desires, or he can add all. And then Bill is going to retain admin rights, while Ted can be given read-write rights or only read-only rights. Whatever you want Ted to have. I'm going to give him access to read and write. Alright, so everything should be good. Let's bounce back over to Ted and see if he can see the changes that Bill has made. I'm going to reopen Ghidra. Yes, please, and don't ask me before I open the file. I trust you. I really do. Oh, excellent. Okay, well then, we're not going to do that right now then. Alright, show tips on startup? Not right now, thank you. Alright, file, new, project, shared, next. Next. Wait for the hourglass of death. And Bill's password is no longer change me. I have changed it to Ghidra. Now, Ted can see Bill's crack me. So let's go ahead and see what all changes have been made. Alright, so one change has been made. We see that clearly. Let's double click on it. Go into our code browser. Let's request exclusive checkout because I don't want Bill or anyone else in my reverse engineering department to make changes while I, Ted, am making changes to it. So request exclusive checkout. We are checking it out. And then, since it has already been analyzed by Bill using the automatic Ghidra function, it is not going to take that time to analyze it again. So let's click into functions. Let's go down to this main folder. Click on main. And we see, clear as day, there is print underscore function that Bill put in earlier. So when I look at this function, I see that it is a string that is doing local 1. And then later on, I see that local 1 and that comes out to a variable. And if this variable equals 0, then do something. Okay, so what this function is doing, it is doing a string compare. So I'm going to change this function to string compare underscore function. Once again, I like to do everything with an underscore function. All right. So we are going to string compare these items. Correction, this is not a string compare. This is a scan. So what it is doing, it is going to put in, it is going to be reading what the keyboard is typing in which this one in which this one is going to be our string compare. So right click, rename function, string compare function. There we go. So we made two changes. We now have a scan function and a string compare function. So we are going to save this, and then we're going to exit out of it. And then Ted is going to update his changes by checking in the file. He checks in, he's going to write in labeled scan func and string compare function. All right, he no longer wants to keep it checked out, so he's going to check it in completely. Okay, now what we can do is we can jump back over to Bill. And then it automatically populates that 2 changes have been made. I'm going to click on refresh because that's what I do, but I still see that only 2 changes have been made. So what Bill can now do is he can right click on it, go to show history, and see exactly what happened. So this is not going to show you the difference. It's not going to be a diff in between the two source controlled versions. If you make any changes, you're going to have to put it into the comments so that way everyone else can see it. But Bill and Ted can both see the comments that have been added by the other users. So this was a real quick down and dirty on how to set up Ghidra Server and how to give 2 users access to it so they can make changes to the binary and be able to see each other's process in near real time. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. You can catch me, Striker2K2, at any of the social media links on the left-hand side of your screen. Once again, like, comment, and subscribe. I thank you all for watching my video, and we'll talk to you later.